So picture this. It's 11:18 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're sitting on a dark couch, and your thumb is just kind of hovering over a checkout screen. In your cart is a $340 jacket. Now let's be honest, you don't even really want the jacket itself. You want what it represents, right? You saw someone wearing it in a feed that got 2.4 million views, and you just want that version of your life. Your thumb hovers there for 11 seconds. And then you close the app. You put the phone face down. Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to look at a fascinating 10-year roadmap that details exactly what happens after that screen goes black. We're going to explore the quiet, almost completely invisible path to building real wealth in the year 2026.
I want to ask you a super direct question. What actually happens when you ignore the 2.4 million view algorithm? What happens when you just decide not to participate in the constant, honestly exhausting velocity of everyone around you performing their absolute best financial selves? Well, to answer this, we're going to trace a 10-year chronological journey, starting from that single, silent decision in the dark to a life completely free of financial desperation.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the illusion of wealth. Before we can get to the fix, we really need to understand the environment we're operating in right now in 2026. The feed has basically become a full-time economy of performance. We're totally surrounded by people announcing leased cars, showing off rented apartments, and projecting a lifestyle they've simply purchased into existence with debt. And the financial content is often the worst offender, literally selling the appearance of money rather than actual wealth. The absolute crucial point here is understanding how this system actually functions against you. The algorithm isn't malicious. It's not some grand conspiracy. It's just an attention economy. It captures your attention by weaponizing the gap between where you currently are in life and where that glowing screen tells you should be. Content that makes you spend gets engagement, and engagement drives the machine. The machine absolutely does not care about your net worth. It only cares about your attention. And this brings us to a truly staggering number. Get this, 100 million. Going into 2026, over 100 million Americans are using buy now, pay later services. These are those frictionless, invisible debt products embedded into almost every single checkout screen. The typical borrower actually has 4 of these plans running simultaneously, probably financing everything from a new luxury couch to, a Tuesday night pizza slice. But listen to me carefully here. This is not a moral failure on your part. This is exactly what frictionless debt inside a highly tuned attention economy is designed to produce. It's a massive trap of lifestyle inflation, but remember, back on that couch, you closed the app. You opted out.
All right, moving on to Section 2, building the quiet system. So we're now in year 1 of our timeline. This is where the median earner, making somewhere between $48,000 and $67,000 a year, takes their power back. And I gotta warn you, the first thing you do is completely unglamorous. It is so boring, but it is the absolute bedrock of quiet wealth. Here's your exact playbook for year 1. Step 1, you sit down with a plain old spreadsheet. Not a fancy app trying to sell you something, just raw numbers. Income, fixed expenses, variable expenses, and debt. You face the gap between what you think you spend and what you actually spend. Step 2, you automate a $400 a month transfer to a high-yield savings account the very day after your paycheck hits. You stop relying on willpower because willpower depletes, right? Automation doesn't. And step 3, you capture your full 401k employer match. Did you know that roughly 25% of eligible Americans leave this unclaimed? That match is the closest thing to a guaranteed 50 to 100% return in modern personal finance. You've got to stop leaving that free money on the table. And boom, by the end of year 1, you hit this beautiful number, $11,400. You have 11 grand sitting in a high-yield savings account earning 4.6% interest. Plus, you've completely paid off your highest interest credit card. Your balance is 0. And here's the absolute most fascinating part of all of this. Nobody knows. You don't post a screenshot. Nobody witnesses this massive victory. It's just a quiet balance, generated by time passing and decisions holding firm.
Which brings us to Section 3, the cost of not performing.
Now it's year 2, and you start making those invisible choices. You open a brokerage account. Instead of chasing flashy, actively managed funds that charge a 1.2% annual fee, you follow the data. You choose a boring, low-cost index fund charging just 0.03%. And this brilliantly illustrates a massive point. It sounds like a tiny detail, right? But compounded over 30 years, that fee difference alone can create a $150,000 gap on just a $100,000 initial position. No way, right? But it's mathematically correct. It's boring, but it works.
But then, the ultimate test happens. 3 weeks after you invest, the market drops 11%. You totally feel it in your stomach. But you don't touch it. According to Dalbar's research, over a 20-year period, the S&P 500 returned 7.7% annually. But the average equity investor, they only saw 3.6%. Why? Because of human behavior. People panic, they feel the dip, and they sell. The gap between the market's return and the emotional investor's return is purely behavioral willpower test. You feel the dip, but you hold. That single, quiet decision changes your entire trajectory for the next decade.
By year 3, the cost gets kind of personal. There's a very specific social friction that comes from not performing wealth for your friends. The whole world is calibrated for visible spending. And when you stop playing that game, people sort of assume you're failing. A close friend plans a destination wedding. Flights and hotels alone are $2,800. You run the numbers, and it completely disrupts your compounding cycle. So you politely decline. The group chat cools slightly. You definitely feel a bit isolated. But as Morgan Housel points out in this brilliant quote, wealth is the cars not purchased, the jewelry not bought, the first-class seat not taken. Real wealth is invisible by definition. Delayed gratification in a world of immediate spending creates a specific kind of loneliness. But honestly, it's so validating to know you're on the right path.
All right, let's jump right into Section 4, the power of compounding.
We're now in years 4 and 5. This is that thrilling inflection point where compounding stops being a theoretical concept you just read about and actually starts becoming a physical reality in your life. The math begins to work independently of your daily labor. You are becoming what researcher Thomas Stanley calls a PAW, a prodigious accumulator of wealth. True millionaires do not look like the influencers on your 2026 feed. They just don't perform wealth. They drive mass-market, American-made vehicles. They live in median-valued homes. The real wealth is in their brokerage accounts and their equity, not plastered on the visible surface of their lives.
So let's look at the actual milestones by year 5. Your brokerage account hits $31,400. And get this, $13,400 of that is pure returns. You made that simply by holding through the noise. You've also quietly leveraged the AI economy, starting a side gig that now generates up to $1,800 a month. So by the end of year 5, your total liquid and invested assets reach $89,000. And you haven't told anyone, but you're physically realizing Warren Buffett's famous philosophy: compound interest truly is the 8th wonder of the world. Every single dollar you keep in the engine, instead of spending it to look rich, is a dollar that works tirelessly for you.
Finally, we hit Section 5, freedom from desperation.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because we've finally arrived at year 10. You're around 34 years old now. This is the culmination of a decade of silent, unwavering discipline. Just look at this progression. From $11,400 in year 1 to $31,400 in year 4, $89,000 in year 5, all the way to a staggering $350,000 net worth by year 10. You are now in the upper quartile for your age cohort. Now, let's be precise here. $350,000 isn't necessarily never work again money, but it absolutely is freedom from desperation. It's a total game changer. It is freedom from the quiet, crushing anxiety that runs underneath every financial decision when your bank account is empty. An unexpected expense, it's no longer a crisis. That kind of freedom profoundly changes the quality of every single day you live. And you achieve this through a principle popularized by the legendary Charlie Munger: inversion. Munger said we should solve problems backward. Don't just ask what you should do to get rich. Ask what you should absolutely avoid. And you? You avoided spending money to signal wealth to people who don't even know you, just for the fleeting feeling of having arrived. You avoided the appearance of a life that costs more than it actually returns. By inverting the normal behavior of the attention economy over a decade, you literally compounded your way to actual freedom. So, we find ourselves right back where we started. It's Tuesday evening, it's late, the feed is still there, pushing a lifestyle. The checkout screen for something you don't really need is just 3 taps away. The algorithm is waiting for you to perform. The question I really want to leave you with in this explainer is simply this: will you close the app? Will you choose the quiet, unglamorous path of a boring brokerage account and step off that treadmill of performative wealth? The machine doesn't care if you announce your departure, it only cares if you show up. So, what's your next move going to be?